just I'm just saying, with all the evidence I provided, I think you'd
Oh
agree.
wow. Yeah. Continue on with your hate for the man who killed a terrorist. That's his worst act, right?
Yeah, there you go. I guess we should let people know what we're doing before we. Well, I mean, like, let me edit the community tab. Let them know.
Mm-hmm. Let me see if I could post this on Instagram for the first time.
Yeah, good luck with that. Instagram's a whole different world, I hear.
hmm Dang it, which is usually good with all this.
Yeah. Uh, let's see, and then grab that link. Grab that link, and then create.
Do.
Okay.
But yeah,
And
audience, if I sound stuffy, it's because I'm recovering from a cold. Dang
yeah,
it, the first time in like what 7 years I got a cold.
yeah. And if I sound stuffy, it's because I don't care. So. Yeah, it's just Cryptid and me today. I think we had an episode like this before. I just don't remember, but you know,
I
um,
forgot which one that would be.
mm. Who do you want to represent in this episode? Peter or Miles Morales?
I have a thing for the OGs, so I gotta go for Peter.
All right, I'll be the young blood Morales. There you go. I
Sorry,
guess,
audience.
yeah.
Mhm.
I guess we can get started. So yeah, I played Spider-Man PS5, or Spider-Man 2.
And
So
I would have played Spider-Man PS5, but I don't own a PS5, and they don't give it for.
yeah,
Come
just
on, game industry, don't forget your love for the PS4. Damn it.
well. Look, we need to focus on the PS5 because trust me, them focusing on the PS5 actually did wonders for this game. But we'll get
It
into that later. Just so the
yeah.
audience knows, this is me, Jake Tylenol, the one who owns the PS5, and with me is you know,
Cryptid Seeker 415, the
yeah,
supporter of Superior.
there you go. And we have a
Mhm.
superior topic today. All right, so let's get into it.
Okay.
I would say
Hey.
right off the bat, if you are wondering if this game is worth $70, in my professional opinion, I would say it is worth the money. Um, as a
Ooh.
game, this is like so much better than the first game for me. It feels like the first game was like a prototype. Like the first game of Miles Morales was like a prototype for this game,
Wow.
which is impressive to say because the first game is great as well. So,
Better in terms of gameplay or better in terms of story?
well, if you held a gun up to my head, I would say the first game is a better story, but I wouldn't say this game has a bad story. You know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, but gameplay wise, you first off, the game how it handles fast travel is amazing. Uh, okay, so like fast travel in this game essentially like you open the map, you point to anywhere in the map, and your character will appear right there within like an instant, basically. Like so, there
Wow.
no load times. Like you just click on the map, hold the button down, and then it'll transition to your character swinging or gliding into the area right then and there. So
Oh, where's
it's
the fun? Where's the fun in that, man? You gotta enjoy the
well,
web slinging.
I do, I do, but also if I'm looking for the collectibles, it's a lot easier to scour the city if I could just go like, oh, I gotta go over here, gotta go over here. Also,
You want to get the Spider-Man experience, you
well,
know?
see, I do. And you know what? It's funny you say that because this game also introduces something. It's an option you can turn off, but you can take fall damage in this game if you want to, basically. So if you
Okay,
mess up a
okay.
swing or mess up a trick, you can hit the ground and take some damage on the way down, basically.
Yeah,
Um,
you would think like of all the times Spider-Man swinging from webs and landing on the ground, that has to be hell on the thighs, you know?
yeah, so I like it. It's not like listen, you won't die every 5 seconds with fall damage. If you hit the ground like just like if you're like 3 stories above the ground, you'll take some damage. If you just land hard. As long as you're not being an idiot, fall damage should never really kill you. It only killed me twice because I wasn't expecting it, but that's about it. I wouldn't say it's like anything like terrible. I would highly recommend turning it on. Hi there, Comic Con. Nice seeing you here.
Hey,
But
Comic Con, do you own a PS5?
he says he's getting a PS5 in 15 days with the game, so the game is coming in the
Okay,
mail. So
okay, CJ, it's a wait. It takes time. All right, not all of us can get a PS5 off the bat. All right.
you had years to get it, sir.
Hey, the last time I bought a console specifically to play one game, it was Avengers PS4, and look how that turned out.
Right, there you go. But is this game worth the exclusivity? I mean, yes, this if you're into God of War, Spider-Man, all the other stuff, and you want to play your PS4 games, I say this game is worth getting a PS5 for. I don't see why not.
Mhm.
But like I said before, it's great. Combat in this game is a lot harder. We lost our suit abilities this game, basically.
Ooh.
So
Wait, which is ironic since the whole premise of this is a specific suit of Spider-Man.
it's
You know?
true. But no more web blossom, no more velocity speed, no more any of that stuff. You will be fighting only with your gadgets, and you have abilities, but they're not as strong as your previous ones, essentially.
Okay.
Oh, by the way, no impact webbing. We don't have that anymore.
Ooh.
Yeah, so this is probably because Insomniac felt like once you kind of mastered the mechanics in the first 2 games, we'll get into story spoilers, but we'll keep it spoiler free for a little bit if it helps. So if we can help you make an informed decision. But
Comic Con saying we're not talking story spoilers, are we?
yeah, I was reading that. Yeah, we're gonna do story spoilers, but not right away. So if you want to just stay tuned for the non-spoiler section, we'll start off there, and then we can do spoilers later.
Mhm.
We'll let you know, essentially. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, so yeah, the combat abilities are like very limited. You don't have your impact webbing anymore. So like, and this is because like a lot of those abilities, once you master them, makes the game kind of like pitifully easy. Um, and so this one actually makes the combat a bit challenging. Instead, you'll have new abilities, like there's a parry system now in the game.
Mhm.
Some attacks you can't just dodge because they're like, heavy attacks. So you need to be able to use
Uh,
a parry system. You need to be able to block the attack at the right time. Or you can jump over it if you're really bad at the parry like me. But it makes the game harder because those attacks are far and few in between, so you're probably not expecting it when it happens. So you really kind of need good reflexes for it.
right.
I will say I played the game on spectacular, so there's that. Of course, everyone wants to know about the basic swinging mechanics. Why else we're playing a Spider-Man game? Swinging is great, and even better is the gliding. Gliding around the
Ooh.
city feels amazing, especially when you can keep that air momentum going. Essentially,
I'm
there's
getting I'm big I'm getting Batman Arkham vibes from that.
yeah, this game plays a lot more like Arkham than the previous games. In fact, later in the game, you get like a web line. Like I don't know if you remember Arkham games, they had the tow line you could do stealth on and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You get a web line in this game, and you can like attach enemies to the web line in stealth mode and stuff like this. So like
Um,
basically, what I remember when I was playing the game, I made like an actual like spider's web out of the web line, and I attached a bunch of enemies to it, and they were just hanging off into the sky, just hanging on the web line.
uh,
So, but gliding in the game is like actually pretty fun. So in the game, there's these you Spider-Man finally makes his web gliders for him and Miles. And there's wind tunnels throughout the city. So while you're gliding and making your own momentum with the web swinging, you can go into these air tunnels that help you like sail across the city effortlessly, and you go pretty quickly too. The map is big, but you'll be in a new district before you know it. It'll take like maybe like a couple swings. You'll already be in a new district before you know it. So, you
okay.
know, and yeah, you can go anywhere in this game in the New York area. So from like Queens to Brooklyn to Astoria to Hell's Kitchen, all over New York. That's all
Mm.
Spider-Man territory. So,
Okay, okay.
Another new addition is now you have allies who can help you during certain random encounters. So one of the themes of the game is Peter and Miles being able to work together. Sometimes when you're going across the city, you'll run if you're playing as Peter, you'll run into Miles, and Miles will help you do takedowns on a street crime. You know,
You know,
now
this is reminding me a lot of Web of Shadows because it had the same game mechanics there where you could team up with an ally. You know, like
they
Luke Cage or Moon Knight or Black Cat or missions.
Yeah, they took a lot from previous Spider-Man games. I'd say they took a bit from the major ones like TASM, like the Amazing Spider-Man games, Web of Shadows, I could say for sure, uh, and like other entries as well. You'll actually funny you mentioned those other allies. Well, Moon Knight and Luke Cage, I will say, are not in the game. You actually might get some other allies in the game that aren't Miles or Peter. That'll help you during your street missions as well. Um,
Okay.
it does raise a continuity concern because without spoiling anything, some things in the story get kind of crazy for like Luke Cage and Daredevil just to not show up if they exist here. So,
Hmm.
it is kind of weird when you're in Hell's Kitchen and no one is even talking about Daredevil. I find that kind of weird. Uh, you know. Um but yeah, in terms of the combat, it's pretty fun. Like I said, you're more limited than the other two games, but you're still having a fun time. It's still about quick reflexes and really playing like Spider-Man would essentially.
Hmm.
Um, you have different enemy factions this time around. Oh, and in this time, we can punch women as Spider-Man. Oh, yeah.
Hey, these fists know equality.
In this game, it's in the trailers, but Craven the Hunter is in town, and his gang of hunters is also on the loose too, and he enlists women and men. So be prepared to fight all genders in this game. So,
Yay. Oh,
uh,
Comic Con saying, "OMG, I wish Daredevil was in the game."
yeah, I think I was
Yeah.
talking with some friends on my server. We all kind of don't understand why Daredevil wasn't even at least referenced in the game. He should have been here. Yeah, I will say as well, I did run into some bugs, not too many, but I know some people on Twitter or X, sorry, who have run into bugs. So I wanted to say the ones I ran into. Um, every now and then, and this is the only game on my PS5 to do it, the game would crash. Okay. Now, this wasn't anything major. It only happened 6 times in the span of 30 hours, basically. Um, but it is something to take note of. Another thing was, I think they patched this out, but early on, I did have problems with where certain crimes, street crimes, I couldn't finish because the AI was glitching and I just couldn't reach him. Like I couldn't punch him. So that was something I wanted
Uh,
to watch out for. Now, granted, by the time this review is done, some of those issues might be gone. I know Insomniac already did one patch update, and I think they did another one. I checked my PS5; it got an update of some sort, so maybe these are fixed. Um, and I do have a glitch that happens at the end of the game that I think resolved itself, but I can't say it without spoilers. Let's just say one enemy faction wouldn't stop spawning and it made no sense in the story. Okay. So
yeah.
put it like that. Um the side missions are great as well. The side missions really make you feel like the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Um,
Hmm.
Miles and Peter both have their own exclusive missions, but sometimes there are missions you can decide if you want to play as Peter or play as Miles. For narrative reasons, most of these I did as Miles because I didn't think Peter really had any time to do these in the context of the story he was in. Um, and that wound up being a detriment to my enjoyment of the story as I'll get into in later. But yeah, you can basically play these side missions at your own pace, at your own time. You might even get unique dialogue depending on when you beat some side missions, essentially. So,
Hmm.
there's that. Um, but yeah, I think that just about covers the gameplay. Like I said, I think this game, gameplay wise, is like a step up. The game looks gorgeous, by the way. I had a hard time recognizing this game from the first one because New York is so upgraded from the first game. Even areas I used to swing to like regularly in the first game, I was like, "Where am I? What? I don't even know where I am anymore." So,
Yeah.
um, I thought all that was pretty great. It's really clear Insomniac put the passion into this game. I would like I said, I think this is a $70 experience. I would highly recommend you play this game. essentially.
Okay, okay. Nice praise there.
Yeah. I guess we can get to the non-spoiler story section. The plot of this game is such that, as I said before, Craven, he's looking for a good hunt, but nothing in the jungle's doing it for him. Luckily, New York's filled with crazy superheroes and supervillains. So he's like, let me just
Hmm.
go over there, see what I can hunt, basically. And as he's rounding up Spider-Man's villains and they're disappearing left and right, Peter and Miles are on the case, protecting the villains they find and trying to stop the ones they're looking for from dying, basically.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
at the same time, Peter's old friend Harry is back in town after presumably being in a life-threatening, possibly fatal disease, essentially.
Okay,
And for
okay.
Miles is still grieving from the death of his father, and now one of his old villains from the past has returned, and it is haunting him tremendously. So him getting over his
Well,
anger is a big source of his game. So his story.
gotcha. Yeah,
Yeah.
I haven't played the Miles game, so I don't know what happened there. So I assume his father died in that game.
No, his father died. I don't know if you remember. His father dies in the first game. His father was killed by Mr. Negative, Martin Lee, who
Oh.
does make an appearance in this game. He was shown in the trailers as well. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, so this is all about
Oh.
Miles kind of finding closure. What are you gonna say?
Oh no, nothing. Go ahead.
Oh yeah. Um, but yeah, this is about Miles finding closure in his father's death, really. It seems that everyone in his life has moved on from it but him and accepted it but him. And while he's kind of getting out of control, Peter's trying to assure him that it's going to be okay because he's been through the same situation too. So he's kind of when they're together, he kind of acts like a big brother to Miles, making sure that he's being listened to if he needs help. That Peter is there. That's kind of the relationship Peter has with him, essentially.
Which is what it should be, you know?
Yeah. Um, and meanwhile, with Peter, MJ is also dealing with her own problems. Her career is not doing too great. And meanwhile, Peter can barely pay the mortgage on Aunt May's house. Aunt May's house was
Oh,
bought for, but because Peter needed to keep feasts going, the house is under mortgage again. He put the house back under mortgage. Uh,
oh,
so it looks like struggles for the Spider-Man all around, and the theme of this is how can the theme of Peter's story is can he keep everything afloat, or does something have to give, whether that be Spider-Man or his personal life or his sub or other things in his life that's going on at the moment. So you
mm,
know, um, and so I will say this game does a fantastic job doing something I feel that Miles doesn't get often. This game does a
ooh.
great job making Miles feel like a normal Spider-Man, basically. I think I've always had this
What
problem
do you
with
mean by
every
that?
game. Yeah, so I've had this problem with every game and movie appearance where like Miles's whole thing is him trying to make himself Spider-Man. He's never just actually Spider-Man. You know what I mean? Like Into the
Mhm.
Spider-Verse and Across the Spider-Verse is about him proving to somebody that he's Spider-Man, basically.
All
Um,
right.
and in Miles Morales game, it's him just realizing like, no, I have to be. It's him trying to take the responsibility, the mantle of Spider-Man. But we never got to get to see Miles just like casually do stuff as Spider-Man, like fighting villains or something like this. Um, in this game, I think I saw Miles have an interaction with the character. I don't think he's ever even talked to in the comics, but it makes so much sense for him to talk to this person, basically. Um,
Okay.
we usually see this character with Peter a lot, but just seeing Miles talk to that character for the first time was just like, oh, that's interesting. It's interesting seeing these two have a relationship that they can a rapport with each other, essentially. Um, doing some of the side missions too, seeing Miles actually, because Miles is more of a community oriented Spider-Man. It seems like a lot of his missions is about him giving back to the community that he grew up in. Um, so kind of being like Luke Cage in a way, I suppose. Um,
Hmm.
but whether it be help his school, help his classmates as Spider-Man, or help an old man suffering through a disease, that's all the stuff that Miles kind of does in his side of the story. And it really normalizes him as this is the other Spider-Man of New York. This is like a Spider-Man, you know. He's not
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, he's not just Peter's sidekick. He's actually his own Spider-Man that also teams up with Peter. So, you know. I can't say Peter's story is well done though, unfortunately.
Ooh.
Uh, while I like Peter's problems, I'd say they're very relatable, which is, every Spider-Man, I think for the most part it's a Spider-Man story. A great Spider-Man story is relatable. It's one of those characters that it thrives off being relatable. Um, I just don't think it's told very well because I think a lot of it's left up to you paying attention hard to the plot. And keep in mind, this game has a lot of dialogue. Okay, there's a lot going on in the story. If you're doing it like me, where you're doing every side mission along the way too, because that's how I feel Spider-Man. I do the side missions when I think Spider-Man would do them, you know. So if you're like me and you do all these side missions and come back to the story, some things you just kind of forget. Um, and it doesn't help that the game kind of makes passing mentions of Peter's problems, but never actually fully addresses them until way later in the game. So it kind of feels like, Peter, what's going on with you? You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Um, you, some people may argue it might be a problem with paying attention better, but I never had this problem in the first game. Um, the first game I played the exact same way. I did all the side missions as they showed up. I did all the crimes as they showed up, and I did the main story. And I never once, had a moment where I was like, "Why is Peter acting like this?" You know. So
Hmm.
I kind of blame this on the issue of the story. I remember in my server, two other people in there. They were playing the game too, and they kind of felt the same way about Peter, where it kind of felt like his story was kind of like not as handled well as what Miles was going through. Um, because I tell you this much: when Miles gets to his conclusion, like his final like battle that decides his character, you actually are really invested in it. It's actually like yeah, Miles, let's go. Like you're actually on board with what Miles is trying to do. When Peter gets to because it's the black suit arc, right? It's in the trailers and everything. When Peter
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
gets to the climax of the black suit arc, you're just kind of like, Peter, where's a lot of this coming from? What are you talking about? I don't remember you ever talking about this. So, you so I think that could have been handled better. And of course, black suits in the game, so obviously Venom's in the game. Um,
Hmm.
I like Venom, but I don't love him. I think he's
The
not as good
year,
of.
the year, the years of oversaturation on the Venom concept as a whole for Marvel kind of would tire anybody out. Like,
Well, that's the thing. So this Venom story is not your typical one. This is every Venom story, and I don't mean like the generic ropes. I mean, this is Donny Cates. This is the original black suit. This is the ultimate version. This is every story put into one. This is Web of
mhm.
Shadows. This is all of them, essentially. Any interpretation of Venom you could think of is in this game, basically. Um,
Wow.
yeah. We get null references at some point. It's a whole thing. Um, and I think I think it's clever the way they come up with some stuff. Like the way the Venom arc even starts is not what you would expect. Um, it actually caught me by surprise. I was like, oh, I didn't think we were going to start from here. It's something that we never really kind of see with um, Peter. Maybe except for with the Ultimate Spider-Man TV show, but I can't remember. Um, but I think my problem with is it just kind of feels like a mess. And we'll get into more with the spoilers. I just don't like how characters kind of ignore the Venom character without saying too much. Um,
Okay.
it seems like there was more to Venom than what the game was willing to acknowledge, but at the same time, they wanted you to think about it. Uh, I don't know how to say that without spoiling it. So, um, but yeah. I also am at the point where I'm like, I feel like Miles should have gotten the black suit instead of Peter. 'Cause, um,
Wait, he didn't get a black suit?
Miles did not get a black suit. No.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's just Peter's the one with the symbiote. Miles gets his Venom powers. It just feels like Miles was actually felt more in line with the traditional black suit storyline than Peter to me. I'm not saying Peter didn't have those things there, but like I said, I think the story does a poor job of conveying Peter's like problems. That I think Miles was just a better fit for it. I think.
Hmm.
But yeah, at the end of the day, I still think the story is good. I even like the acting this time around, but I will say this also, Peter, Peter has the worst jokes out of any Spider-Man I've heard in this game, basically. I thought I've heard all of the annoying Spider-Man jokes but this game, I was actually at times like, Peter, shut up. Like, stop talking.
Well,
This is
okay,
embarrassing.
now you're getting the Rogues Gallery experience from it. Like
I
as
mean,
much as you hate them, that's how villains feel about them.
I like Spider-Man when he's funny. I like Spectacular Spider-Man, the Ultimate Spider-Man comic. Um,
Mm,
Spider-Man, the '90s show. They all tried to make Peter like funny, and they weren't trying too hard. It was like Peter was just kind of a bully when it came to supervillains, and I think that's what made it like, charming. It made it kind of fun to watch. Um, that's kind of why I
yeah.
like the MCU Tom Holland. He has some good lines too, where like he's fighting what is it? I think it's Falcon. He's like, "Hey, buddy, I think you dropped this." And he like almost hits his head. Like that was like,
Yeah.
I like that Spider-Man. This Spider-Man's like trying to be funny. Like he's clearly, it's so obvious he's nervous, and that's why he's joking that it doesn't become like cool anymore. You know what I mean?
Oh. Hmm.
And I'll also say too, I'm trying to say that I think also it's not the worst handling of it. I think by the end of this story, they kind of emasculate Peter a bit too much and service.
Oh.
Um, it,
Okay, now that's kind of sad when, especially when you're talking about how like Miles seems to have gotten a lot of good material, while at the same time you're also saying that Peter may have gotten emasculated.
it's at the start of the game, it's fine. He's actually pretty good. Actually, at the start of the game, the opening of the game is like really great. I'd say like the first cutscene is funny. It feels like you're watching a movie. It feels like you're watching the sequel to a movie, basically. Peter and Miles are on the same wavelength. They're partners. It's all great. And throughout the game, they're fine. It just seems like at some point Peter just kind of dips as a character and it never quite recovers. It seems like they're trying to put Miles over Peter in service of the narrative they're trying to get to, which I understand. And when you play the game, I know it makes sense. But I just don't like how it leaves Peter's character off, though. You kind of feel like, oh wow, this made Peter look really bad at something. So you know what I mean? Um, he's not like damaged as a character. Like he can still recover from it. It's just like it was almost to the point where I was like, okay, game, I get it. You're trying to do stuff with Miles. I get it. Just don't freak out. So
I can't wait. I can't wait to hear you go more in depth on that in the spoilers, man. Like,
yeah. So Harry, he's not your usual. He's not the Harry I'm used to, but he's a fun guy. He's a guy you want to be around. He's just so charming. Like he's so
mhm.
happy and hopeful. Like you just don't want to let him down. You're like, man, come on, Harry. You're with the boys. You're one of us. Um, I liked Harry Osborn and Peter's relationship. I really enjoyed the times they had together. You really feel their chemistry together. Um, and I think that's all great. I just think at some point Harry gets lost in the shuffle too. Um, Fun fact: before the ending, Harry and Miles maybe have like 2 conversations in the entire 30-hour experience. I was like, oh
you
wow, what
know,
a missed opportunity. So,
I, it never even occurred to me of those who were almost. I don't even think they ever interacted in the comics once.
no, they never had the chance to. Um,
Wow. Like, no, I kind of want to now see a moment where you have Harry Osborn and Genki just sitting in the cafe, man, saying, like, hey, we were buds of Spider-Man. You know?
the buds of Spider-Man. Yeah,
Yeah.
and there's also a really good background theme that comes up, but it's so undercooked. It's like the theme of like Miles and Harry kind of don't like each other. That's kind of like the theme, the impression you get, but they want to be friends with each other because Peter's there. So I'm like, oh, that's so relatable, but like they don't do much with it. Uh, but it's like Harry's trying to force himself into that friend group, but like, and Miles is like, oh, so, like, you know, it's like they don't know how to talk to each other, so I kind of like that.
No.
But the real stars, I think too, like, I will say this: Miles does have one thing that I hate that Peter has down pat. I don't like Miles's side cast; they're really boring.
Oh.
If you played Miles Morales, you know that by the end of the game, spoilers for that game, um, Miles's mom knows Miles is Spider-Man. Okay, that's what you get from that game. She is way too okay with him being Spider-Man though. It's like cryptid. Comes a point where like news happens on the screen that should make her have like PTSD. And she's like, "No, Miles, you go ahead. You go be Spider-Man. You go out there. You go handle your thing." And I'm like, "What are you talking about? This would be terrifying." I think she's a boring character. They want her to be like Miles's Aunt May, but I'm sorry, the Aunt May character in this universe was more interesting to me. For one, she was a sweet old aunt, so you can't go wrong with that. Secondly, she had flaws. I really like that in the first game. There was a line, I don't know if you remember, where she's making fun of Peter for being too prideful, and then later Peter makes fun of her for the same thing because she has the same problem. So, I like that she had that flaw, that she's also prideful, but she has to learn to accept help as well. But Miles's mom is just like too perfect, and I'm like, you're not really that interesting. And I like what's crazy is I like her in Across the Spider-Verse because she's like in Across the Spider-Verse, she's like a mother. She's like a mother I've seen before. She's like a mother who like she wants to get to know her son, but she doesn't know how to connect with her son. And Miles understands that, but also he doesn't know how to connect to her either. Like they're just too awkward to make it work. I'm like, this is like a lot of relationships I know in real life. I think Miles and his mom in the game are just too in sync with each other. I'm like, I need more arguments with you two, basically. Gank, he's cool. I like him better in this game. Yeah, Austin said it too. I don't understand it. Yeah.
Hey, Austin's in the chat.
I don't know what you mean if I start over. Gank, Gank is like Gank for me. He's there. He's more fun. He has better dialogue in this, but he's not like he's not really like all that special. He was implied to have an arc at the beginning of the game, and then they just kind of dropped it. And then you have what were you gonna say?
Gank just hasn't been a relevant character in so long, no matter what medium he's in.
Yeah, he's tech support, and he does pretty well. It's cool seeing him interact with Peter. That's about it. Then you have Miles's last support character, which is Haley. Now, if you play Miles Morales, yeah. Haley, if you play Miles Morales, Miles, outside of crushing on the main villain, Finn, he had another crush on another girl named Haley, who's a deaf girl, who does art. In this game, we skip over. Go ahead.
So is this an original character for the game?
I believe so, but if someone wants to correct me, I think she's original.
Austin in the chat saying, not really a guy in the chair. Kind of like a guy down the street you see once in a while.
Yeah, there you go. But I think, but then there's, okay, Austin says she's an original character. Okay. Haley is a deaf girl, and her character just is like, she's nice, and she's very into Black culture. Or she's into Black. I don't think she's very into Black culture, but she's into it. And I'm like, and that's kind of all there is with her. And I'm like, that's not very interesting. Is
it true that there is a side mission of her graffitiing?
Yes, you actually get to experience life as a deaf girl in Spider-Man 2. So thank you. Yeah, she's cool, she's fine, but it's like she's not really all that interesting. And I would say that about Miles' entire side cast. They're not all that interesting. They're just kind of Miles' support, and that's about it.
Mm-hmm.
So meanwhile with Peter, you have Harry who's going through his own issues. You have MJ who actually I'm not gonna lie to you. MJ had one part in the game where I was like, where it made her entire character so much better. MJ was like kind of a standout in this game for me actually because of one scene later in the game.
Okay.
So I actually really enjoyed her. So I would say I would give Peter, even though Miles has the better storyline, Peter has the better side character, supporting cast, I should say.
Gotcha.
So you have Norman Osborn, of course, who's really going through it as well. So,
Mm-hmm.
but
Austin in the chat is saying this game really makes you feel like a deaf girl.
yeah. I think, but yeah, I think my last problem with Peter's story, and we've kind of been divided on this in the server. I don't like Norman Osborn as much in this game. I'm sorry. I think it's just
you're not supposed to like him by the end, so
that's not even my issue. The problem is I'm supposed to like him in this game.
Mm-hmm.
He's actually a really sympathetic character, and I don't like that because I like Norman where he's like a little bit sympathetic, but at the end of the day, like once he's like Goblin, like he's like evil, like you know what I mean? Like he's like a goon.
Yeah.
My favorite. Say that again.
I was about to say, yeah, they just really want that change of a character once they get him to be Green Goblin in the next game.
And not for nothing, I'm just kind of tired of the Spider-Man fighting villains who they're trying to redeem the whole time. Like they're like,
oh god,
they're like, oh, we were gonna save the world together. It's just like I'm tired of hearing that speech, and then I'm not listening, and then like they, whatever. So
yeah.
I just kind of want a villain. Like I just want like Spider-Man to fight like just a goon, like a villain, an evil threat. That's all I want. So I don't want him saying this to Norman again.
Awesome is saying he's made that Norman cares, and that Norman caused everything in this trilogy. Though funny enough,
it's true. He did. He's responsible for every last thing that happens in the Spider-Man saga.
For being despite the fact that this game wants to make him appear sympathetic, let's keep in mind he screwed over Otto.
I'm glad you said that because that never comes up. Peter gets a little bit more time with Norman. He's not even trying to investigate Norman or bring him to justice. Like he doesn't even bring it up. It's just like if I was Doc Ock, I would feel really betrayed right now. That was the entire reason they fought in that first game. So Peter was all like, "We'll find another way. We'll bring him to jail." Didn't even try. Just saying. That's just I don't know.
You left your mentor in jail, Peter. Left him to be paralyzed for the rest of his life.
Like I said, Doc Ock's a better villain. I like Doc Ock because Doc Ock is just like he had a better. Well, I'm sorry, the ending between Peter and Doc Ock in the first game is just amazing. Like I love that whole.
That was a movie quality moment by the end. You hear the emotion out of Otto, which was brilliant voice acting. I gotta add, like the part where he says, "If they take me to jail, they'll take my arms.
Yeah, they'll take my arms away."
Oh man,
Peter! Like I love that. That was so good. And so, like, I don't know. The villains here were kind of except for Kraven. I guess I didn't go to Kraven, but the villains here were kind of a step down. Kraven the Hunter, and this one, he is that guy, I will say. Kraven is like looking for that hunt, the good fights. Yeah, Kraven was good. There was no sympathy behind Kraven. There was no negotiating. It was like, I'm a villain. Okay, so, but he wasn't the final boss. But yeah, he was a good villain. I really wish we got a little bit more boss fights with him. It feels like a lot of the game. What I do like in the game is if you're sneaking around in the lead up to Kraven, because you haven't even seen him yet, but if you're sneaking around the bases, you will hear the henchmen hype up Kraven, like the legend of Kraven. Before you even meet him, they're talking about like, he took on like a den of lions by himself, bro. Like you should have seen it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so, I liked that. I liked Craven himself. Um
Hmm.
and the ending to his story arc, perfect. I couldn't have asked for anything better with the character. Um but I think that's all I can really say. Unless you have any more questions about non-spoiler stuff or gameplay. That's all I really got. I think the game is a good story, just not a great one like the first game. So,
Gotcha. I don't have any questions right now. I'm just more curious of what the spoiler section has to offer. Oh, here's Austin saying Craven was a goon.
yes, he was that good.
Mm,
Was that goon for
oh,
real?
and audience, this is coming from a really big Craven fan, by the way. So, yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think, like I said, I would highly recommend this game. Like I said, the story is not going to be as good as the first one to me. Maybe you'll enjoy it more.
Hmm.
It has a lot of
So,
good moments. Yeah, Austin, we talked about Venom a little bit, but we're going to get more in depth with him with the spoilers because everything I want to say is in spoilers, I guess. So, but
hmm.
yeah, everything. It's a good game. It's a great game, good story, fun time. That's what I'll say Spider-Man 2 is. So, you know.
Cool.
Um, but
All
yeah,
right.
now on the spoiler section, click off, click off, click off. Um,
Mhm.
I guess where do you want me to start? I guess where would you like to know the most?
Wow. Well, honestly, you take the lead on this, man. You play the whole game, so it's more fresh in your mind.
Yeah.
Oh,
I guess I can start with. Well, no, I'll say. Let's go in order. So, like, basically, at this point, the Spider-Men are a bit more like veterans now. Miles is like, like I said, a competent Spider-Man and everything. The real thrust of his story kicks in when, because Craven's breaking villains out of the raft and then capturing them. Actually, and then when the game starts, he's actually on the hunt for Sandman, basically. But the Spider-Man stops Sandman before, like, he becomes like a big threat to the city, essentially. Um,
okay.
so basically, the Spider-Man slowly come to the realization that there's somebody hunting down villains and kidnapping them, essentially. So they're trying to protect them. And one of those villains they protect, and they find out they're protecting is Martin Lee, aka Mr. Negative, aka the man who killed Miles's father, essentially.
Mhm.
And just Miles seeing Mr. Negative alone has upgraded his powers and made them more anger based, essentially. Um,
Oh,
not that it really matters because in gameplay, it's not really an anger trigger. It's just another power he has. Whatever.
so
But
you're saying his Venom Blasts need more of an upgrade?
yes, he actually gets a couple upgrades throughout the game. So,
And it's not that long ago in the comics where apparently his Venom Blast could turn into a sword now.
yeah, so I guess we can get into. So this is a line that they just kind of put in there, but at the time it didn't mean anything until later in the game. Uh, Peter is worried about juggling everything, and MJ is like, "Well, why don't you take a break being Spider-Man?" He's like, "Well, I got the city to save," and MJ's like, "No, don't worry about it. I mean, you already have Miles, and if Miles is here, do you really need to be Spider-Man?" So,
Oop,
you know,
oop.
uh,
Hold on a sec, Jake. We have somebody. Oop. Ladies and
That's me.
gentlemen, surprise appearance.
by
Go
us.
ahead.
Hello.
Yeah, it's Ace Comics. I was in the comic section, but I really
Gotcha.
wanted to say something. So I had to find. I
Yeah.
ran to find a room, even though I'm not at home.
Okay.
Gotcha. Hope everything's going all right, man, with you and everything.
It's not all right. Everyone's kind of asleep, so I won't be able to stay long.
Mm-hmm.
So once Jake get the Venom, I'm probably gonna say some stuff. So
Okay.
I'm just gonna be quiet for most time.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
but yeah, so MJ, so Peter, he's wondering like how he's gonna balance everything, and MJ says a line that at the time I didn't even think meant anything until I realized how personally Peter took this. Apparently, where MJ's like, yeah, if you need to take a break, take a break. Miles, what do you need? What do you need to be Spider-Man for when Miles is around? So, you know, um, which kind of leads into
Okay.
what I call is the slow emasculation of Peter, because it turns out Peter actually took this way more personally than it came across the first time. So,
Okay. Go more in depth.
so eventually, okay. So first off, when we get introduced to Venom, it's not Venom; it's Agent Venom. We get introduced to. So, Harry Osborn. Yeah. Hey Tavia, we're in the spoiler. Oh, you played the game. I'm assuming you said
Yep,
this
yep.
is amazing. Okay, yeah, we're in the spoiler section now. So if you don't want any spoilers, you can leave. If you're okay with it, you can stay.
And also, Tevi, you came in an appropriate time because we're going to be talking about the emasculation of Peter. So,
Like I said, it's not like as big as I'm making it sound, but I don't know how to say it in a softer way other than that's what happened. So,
yeah.
How it felt like so power wise to make Miles. Okay, if you put Miles and Peter together, Miles is stronger, correct?
Specifically because of the Venom Blast. Yeah.
Yeah, but it seems like in order to up Venom's threat level, but also make Miles feel like a legit Spider-Man, they like lowered Peter's level like by a lot from last game.
Ooh.
To the point where they took away a lot of his main gadgets they know that'll be useful in most of this game.
yeah, it felt like that was another thing I want to get to spoilers too. It felt like some of the gadgets were in gameplay they were equals, but in the first game they clearly weren't because like Peter's tech was a lot better than what Miles had in his game. And it feels like he downgraded for some reason. I think the story explanation is because he has a new version of the suit, essentially. So like I don't think he can hit everything yet, but I don't know. But yeah, so so apparently Peter took that line that like, oh, the city could just use Miles instead of you. He took that very personally. Originally what we get is Agent Venom, which is Harry Osborn. Eventually Harry learns that he has the symbiote in him that allows him to get super strength and all this stuff, and he can make symbiote armor out of it. So he makes a Venom suit, or like an Agent Venom suit. And then he wants to go help Peter. You find out Harry is a terrible superhero, but he's trying his best. So,
hey, we all have. I was about to say we all have our year one moments. Okay,
Harry is the epitome of everybody who's like, oh, if I got superpowers, I'll just go out there right now. No, like he has no plan. He's just super excited. He's like a puppy dog on the field, bro, and he just doing whatever.
There's a scene where Harry and Peter are trying to free Tombstone from a base, from a prison, and like they're outgunned, outnumbered, but they're in hiding. And then Peter's like, "Okay, Harry, so like, what's the plan?" And Harry's like, we like go in and just like punch everybody."
No. Credit. What he said was, Peter said, "We need a plan." He was like, "I have a plan. Let's get him."
Yeah. Peter had this.
Peter was like, "What?"
In Harry's defense, I will do the same. Come on, like I go to all the trouble to make this new Venom armor, and I damn well want to put it to use. You know.
He nearly screws up all of Peter's plans, like just by trying his best. So, but it's okay. Peter doesn't get mad at him. He's like, you know what? It's like, yeah, I think we did pretty good. He's like, you mean I did pretty good at screwing everything up? He's like, yeah, but you tried, and that's what. So I like that.
Peter's a very good mentor in this Miles game, bro.
Yeah, Peter's actually pretty good.
You have Tevia saying seeing Agent Venom in this game was amazing. I would have done the same too. Hey,
I was iffy on it. I was fine with like having the Venom suit and stuff. I don't know why he chose Agent Venom specifically, like the way he made his armor and stuff.
Well, he probably made it
because like a lot of the Venom stuff with Harry kind of comes out of nowhere. Like he has no reason to say he's Venom, but he calls himself Venom anyway.
Yeah, the Venom reveal is terrible, but I guess I want to kind of get into as like there's like a scene where like later he's like out of nowhere he's just like, I'm not Harry, I'm Venom. I'm like, what? But why though? Why would you say that? So, but yeah, the Agent Venom stuff is like what am I saying? Oh yeah, the Agent Venom section was pretty good. I actually liked how fun it was. And the only reason Peter gets the symbiote in this timeline is because when he was fighting Craven for the first time, he got stabbed and nearly died.
Craven has the ability to cloak himself, so he was invisible. Spider-Man turned around to swing at him, and he got a gut full of like Michael Myers big knife.
Yeah.
Oh damn!
And then Harry was freaking out. He beat up Craven, and then he went to Peter, and then he was freaking out. And the symbiote, I always took it as the symbiote was reacting to Harry, but that's apparently not true.
Wait.
Yeah.
Wait, tell me, what Easter egg were you talking about?
He's talking about the spider bots. There's a spider bot collectible that resembles Mayday Parker's Spider Girl, and then I think Peter has a reaction to it, but I didn't get it because there was dialogue. So
Okay, my bad. I didn't mean to cut you off. I was very confused.
Yeah. But yeah, so Peter gets the symbiote because Harry was desired to save Peter, or at least that's what I thought until they said something later in the game.
Yeah. According to Kurt Connors, for reasons they don't explain at all, the symbiote chose Peter.
Yeah.
And then when they had the chance to go back to Peter, it still just goes to Harry anyway. So it's like, bro, what?
Yeah. This is where kind of the symbiote storyline gets murky. So my first problem with it comes like this. Especially if we're doing all the side missions, the game's dialogue doesn't change much when Peter gets the symbiote until like key moments. So as I'm playing the game, and I think everyone in the server has played this, had the same experience, I felt like Peter would just randomly, do the symbiote thing where he's getting aggressive. It never felt consistent. Sometimes Peter sounds like his normal self, and then other times Peter just sounds angry. And it's never really consistent until after the lizard boss fight, basically. Because after that moment, I would say the black suit art gets like really good. I would say
Peter's like super calm for most of the time, and then he randomly shows up to Mary Jane and Perry, and he blows up very casually. It was very funny.
Cryptid, there's a lot. Harry's like, okay, so without the symbiote, Harry's getting sick, but they don't know how to get it off Peter, so they're going to Kurt Connors. They need to find Kurt Connors, but Kurt Connors is the lizard, so Peter's going on the trail for Kurt Connors. At this time, Harry's getting more sick, and so after Peter meets with Kurt Connors, asks him, okay, so how do we save Harry? And then Kurt Connors like, we're not doing that. We're destroying the symbiote. It's too dangerous. And then Peter's like, and then the symbiote's like, what? I'm sorry, you're gonna destroy who? So the symbiote freaks out and takes over Peter, and it just kind of goes away. And then Peter goes to Harry, who's like sick, and like Harry is like, "Oh, Peter, you're back. Can I have the symbiote back?" He's like, "How about you go back to popping some pills, Harry?"
Wow!
He said, "Why don't you pop some pills?" Yeah. So Peter's like, "The symbiote saved me. It feels so great." And Harry's like, "Yeah. I bet it feels good, right?" And he turns around like, "Why don't you pop some more pills and say what you really is?"
Oh, God, dude.
And I'm like, bro, calm down. He's on his deathbed. So this man went from like having superpowers and being over the moon to walking with a cane and a bad limp in like a day and a half. Like Harry's going
poor kid, man.
I was like, I remember, like, I think all three of us got to that point and we all laughed. All four of us were laughing at that scene because it was so unhinged. So, I think, oh no, we're gonna skip the key Mary Jane section on the symbiote. Crazy. Oh no, we'll get there.
We're gonna get to that scene and Cletus stuff.
Yeah, we'll get, yeah. But yeah, I think that my problem with the arc is just Peter's inconsistency until he gets to that point. It's just like so like all over the place, and then I think at some point it just gets good. It's just fine, but and I will say this: I don't quite like understand how Peter is possibly justifying keeping the symbiote after a certain point. I think in the comics and shows it makes more sense because he's not like trying to give it back to somebody. You know what I mean? He just has the same.
It's also a more slow burn. And here he only had Harry had the suit on for years. Peter had it on for like 2 days.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe seeing all the enhancements Miles is going through and makes Peter think, man, I really did slim down while Miles is growing up. Like.
They kind of implied that he's insecure about Miles. Like Jake said earlier, it's only like 2 lines where it actually comes up. MJ says a line, and then Peter says a line at the end of the game.
there's like a line that directly says later that Peter actually is jealous of Miles, but like it's like where did this come from? I would have rather a scene where Peter couldn't do a rescue without the suit and Miles did it, and it made Peter feel a bit insecure, even though on the surface he was happy for him. You know, I would have preferred that. And then Peter gets
the closest you get is the Harry scene where at the carnival, where Spider-Man's holding on to two roller coaster carts, and he can't pull them up and hold the other thing at the same time. So he's telling these people, "I'm sorry." He's about to drop them; they're about to die. And then Harry comes in and saves the day.
Which I guess is supposed to.
Harry with
I just think it would have hit home more if it was Miles who saved the day. But I get we need to introduce Harry at some point. But like, I don't know. It was just.
It honestly felt like they took a lot less care with Peter's story than Miles, because a lot of the symbiote stuff does not add up like any symbiote lore. And then the part they do take from like the deep cut, cryptid, the whole final act is taken from Web of Shadows and Donny Cates Venom and Noel and stuff.
Wow.
But they don't want to explain anything. So it's like, what's happening?
Yeah,
why are you doing
that's
this?
something Jake mentioned earlier. They tried cramming as much of Venom lore into this game as possible. So
it was because at first they go with the fact that the symbiote is biologically man. That's what everyone just believes. And then we kind of get that the suit is alive because, as Tevia brought up in the section, we get a point where like Peter's just asleep, and then like Craven's men track him to the house. By the way, Craven should know where Peter lives, but whatever.
He knows where he lives.
Wait a second.
He knows where he lives. He sent people to get Mary Jane at one point in the game. She got in the back of the truck. That was outside May's house.
I wasn't sure if they knew where Peter lives or like Peter was Spider-Man. I don't know. There was like
They knew that he sent people to May's house, and that's how Mary Jane got in the back of that truck. And it
the reason I asked is because later the hunters, if you I don't know what the cutscene version showed, but while I'm sneaking around as MJ in that section, the hunters go like, "Oh, Spider-Man's also here. I guess they're very close to each other." I'm like, do you not just like put two and two together? Like, how do you not know?
You went to his
house. What's like, why are you saying that?
Like, she straight up says they're here at your Aunt May's house, and then she gets to the back of the truck trip. They're like, I don't know how they don't get that.
He was just sleeping in the house, I guess. Whatever. But yeah, so basically, so Peter, while asleep, the symbiote takes control and just starts like going crazy, just start eating people, and nearly kills MJ at one point. In the story, where there's a sequence where you have to run away from symbiote Spider-Man as MJ.
I'm just saying, people don't hate Peter for that, even though it's outside his control, but they hate other people doing the same stuff. I'm just saying.
But yeah, I think that was and all that's great. And then at some point, I think even before this point, Peter doesn't tell anybody, but like when he talks to Kurt Connors about the symbiote, Kurt Connors explains that like the symbiote isn't man-made, it's an alien. Everyone's like, an alien? Whoa, that's crazy. Like they've never heard of an alien before. So the Avengers have not fought alien.
That's also how Kurt lost his arm this timeline. He grabbed the symbiote with his bare hand and cut his arm off.
Oh, god damn.
They tried to take him over or something, so they just cut it straight up. Norman had him cut off Kurt's arm.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a unique way of explaining how he lost his arm.
I'll tell you, Norman literally causes everything. Because if he didn't do that, Kurt would not end up being a lizard. He caused everything.
But yeah, so it's like, so the symbiote was thought to be an experiment. Now it's an alien. And once it becomes an alien, everyone's reaction is like, oh, it's an alien. Huh. And they just kind of move on from that. Wow, it's an alien.
At one point where they clearly know the symbiote has its own mind and is a living thing, and it keeps telling them, I'm not Harry. They refuse to act like it's a person.
There's multiple. I don't mean like one or twice. I mean, there's at least 5 times in the game. Different characters talk about the symbiote. And it's like, you need to get that thing off. It's a monster. And it's like, I'm not an it. I'm a person. And like no one's talking to the
scripted. It almost hit them with that meme where it's like, my pronouns are they, them, not because I'm non-binary, but because I'm 2 fucking people.
That's literally always been the case with Venom. Like,
frustrating because at some point you're like, okay, if you know it's an alien and there's an invasion happening, maybe you're like, okay, what do you want? Like, why are you doing this? If you're if you're a person, let's talk. Like, you know what I mean? It just feels like no one even tries to talk to this thing. Because it seems like all the symbiote wants is to be safe. By the way, that's the other thing. I can't accurately tell you what the symbiote's motivation is. I think it just wants to be safe. So let's go with the person keep it the most safe, basically.
Yeah, at first it seemed like that's the main motivation, and it also gives it a reason not to go back to Peter, who wants to destroy it, and then go to Harry. But once it joins Harry, it goes like full in on Harry's plan.
Yeah. Which I can still argue.
Which I guess would keep the symbiote safe in a sense.
Yeah.
But it's like, if you know anything about symbiote lore, your kids are stronger than you. You're setting yourself up to die by somebody.
Speaking of symbiote kids, we got Scream in this game, played by Mary Jane Watson. So,
as a symbiote fan, this made no sense because, so what they did was they took the Donny Cates Knoll stuff of he can make drone symbiotes where they got the squiggly face.
Yeah.
But for some reason, when he does the same thing to Mary Jane, she just becomes Scream. And I don't mean like she just looks like Scream. She calls herself Scream.
I think it's because...
And it never happens any other point in the game.
I think it's because Venom put a little bit extra. Because, we have the symbiote brutes in the game, so clearly there's some hierarchy here. I think it's just because it's for MJ.
Yeah, but they still had the drone squiggly line. Like this one was literally he gave birth to a baby symbiote. But they didn't.
It's also about a common theme. I think it's just because it's MJ, and Harry has a close connection to MJ, so he's like, "I'm gonna give you a little bit more."
Hey, accidental releases happen, I guess. I
will say this is one of my favorite boss fights in the game because it really talks about it really sells me on this version of MJ more than the first game did. Because this MJ is when you hear MJ just talk about her problem, it's like she's a fucking failure. So she if you remember in the DLC, she went to Symkaria to write a book, and then at the beginning of the game she goes only 10 people bought her book. Yeah, only 10 people bought it. And Peter was one of them.
Peter probably ate it.
And so she had to come back to America, and then her new boss was J. Jonah Jameson, that's constantly threatening to fire her if she doesn't make a front page story every week. So she's just miserable, and on top of that, Peter can't pay the mortgage to this house he wants her to move into. So it's
he want them all to move to the house.
So it's she's going through a lot. So when you have this moment where Peter's fighting MJ, you just get to hear MJ's entire problems laid out, and Peter's reaction to it is just so real. It's this is great. This is great to listen to. I had a hard time focusing on the boss fight.
Yeah, it sounds like the emotional moments were stronger than the physicality of the fight itself.
Yeah, this is
to be fair, I see some people just beat the dog shit out of her in the funniest way possible with this free.
But I really liked it. It made MJ one of my great. Speaking of which, you play as MJ again in the game, but they fix it this time for me.
She's John Wick.
Yeah. Because now it's you're playing The Last of Us, but as Mary Jane. So
I did see some clips of her gameplay. Man, she puts that taser to use.
But it makes me think, man, I could imagine being trained by Craven the Hunter and just losing to some redhead from New York.
There's already seen 4 skits about that. They're
it
man, they done took out half the crew. It's Spider-Man not even here.
Mary Jane on the case.
We couldn't even lose to the rookie Spider-Man. We lost his girl. Come on.
I do like some of the lines too, where the Hunter's focus on your fire on the Spider Kid, and then Miles is I hope you're not talking about me because I'm actually taller than the other guy. So, I like that line. But I do, like I said, the Venom stuff is just kind of too I don't even quite buy Harry's thing 100%. I get it, but I don't. It feels there was a leap somewhere.
Yeah. I like Peter Cryptid. Harry, who had the symbiote for years, he based on every reaction he has until he gets the symbiote back from Peter, it's like a normal reaction to the situation he's in.
Mm-hmm.
So for him, he literally just goes 0 to 100 randomly.
Oh.
But it was like, why hasn't it started influencing Peter, but did influence the guy it was on for like 3 years?
Yeah, Harry just acts like a normal guy, and when it gets to Peter, Peter just is the first one to start like cracking under the symbiote. I like to think it's the stress, but that's never quite explained. That the stress is
Yeah, but it's like he was all stressed. Harry's
right,
dying.
but like he's focused on one thing. Harry, it could have been like Peter split between so many different things to just freak the symbiote out, and that's why it's my opinion.
Kevin wants to know you have any opinion on the Venom versus Carnage. I mean Venom versus
when Venom first appears, when Harry gets symbiote back and just becomes Venom, you get a whole section where you get to play as Venom, and like,
but you don't get to eat children.
You don't get to eat, you don't get to eat children, but you do get to eat people. Okay, so basically the section ends with a fight scene between Venom and Kraven the Hunter, the final boss fight for Kraven, essentially. So Kraven at this point, he's sick and he's dying.
Yeah, straight up cancer.
Yeah. And so he only wants one last good hunt. He wants somebody to kill him, but he wants to do all.
Yeah, he wants that worthy opponent to beat him and then give him a warrior's death. Because it was like watching the Undertaker come back every year to try to find that one person to lose to or beat until he made AJ stop.
Yeah, because as Kraven puts it, it's like, I did all of this, and just for life to cheat me out by giving me cancer is just like not like I hate this so much. I just want someone to kill me. Like I want death to earn me. So like,
Damn. Why do they give such good materials to the villains? I wonder. It sounds like this is his Doc Ock. It sounds like this is his. If they put me away, they'll take my arms moment. Like.
Bro, Kraven felt like he should have been a God of War villain. Like I would have loved to see this man fight Kratos, like adult, older Kratos, with his dialogue. I challenge you because I thought you were worthy. I want you to end me. Kratos like nah.
You must be better. But no, it also ends where Kraven gets his head ripped off by Venom.
Yeah, he gets his head eaten. He gets the whole bite down. Head eaten.
I also like it too because Kraven keeps talking to like Venom. He's like, "Thank you for killing me." Venom's like, I don't care. Like I really don't care.
I thought they were going to do the whole thing from the ending of Let There Be Carnage, where it was like, "What do you want, Kraven?" And he's like, "I just wanted a worthy adversary." And Venom comes out like, "Fuck this guy!" And if I still that kind of felt like,
honestly didn't care. But yeah, and so that was pretty much it for that. I think also so here's where back to the emasculation of Peter. Even before we get to this point, we have a Miles versus Peter boss fight. Okay, so this boss fight is, by the way, it's actually a pretty good boss fight. Spider-Man fighting Spider-Man. This is actually pretty good. They could have done more with Peter web slinging around, but it's fine. At this point, Peter just gone batshit insane, and Miles is like, and he's about to kill Kraven himself. And then Miles is like, "We don't do that here." And Peter's like, "Get off of me! Why are you telling me how to be a good Spider-Man? I'm Spider-Man." It's like this whole thing. And I'm the hero. And so they have this whole fight, and then Peter's like, "Everyone thinks you can replace me, but I'm the original." It's like they're just like, you won't be anything without me. So it's like, there's this whole big thing. Now, luckily for Miles, there was like a bell nearby that he could use. And
Peter was holding back, and he was struggling throughout the fight. Yeah. But I don't know, like story wise. I was watching the fight. Miles gotta beat the dogs out of Peter, because there's so many like times where he just straight outmaneuver Peter because Peter's holding back. That looks like it's kind
There's a moment where they take as Austin pointed out, they take a scene from My Hero Academia where Bakugo outmaneuvers Deku and beats him in their like little school fight, basically. So it's like shit like that. Or when they take a scene from Dragon Ball Super where like the Kamehameha where he like versus Kefla. Where Miles does that with the Venom Blast, essentially. So
why not? He could.
Yeah. So
if Miles could turn his Venom Blast into his sword, he might as well turn it into a Kamehameha at this point.
no. He's not shooting the beam. He's just doing like the motion when he lifts up the blast.
He can't shoot the beam though. He can't shoot the beam. That is a move yet. So yeah, no,
What?
that's so after he first meets Martin Lee and he gets angry, the power he unlocks is he can shoot a venom beam at enemies and it chains. So if you hit an enemy, it hits
scripted. He kind of absorbs Martin Lee's negative electricity, and now he has to like the power of both.
Wow.
So Peter kind of got downgraded. They got upgraded with the symbiote, and Miles he got legit power boost in like different ways.
Yeah. So inevitably Miles beats up Peter enough to be like, Peter, pick off that fucking suit. Stop embarrassing yourself. And Peter's like, yeah, you're right. And he like he rips off the suit, and then he's Peter again. And then Peter's like, wow, Miles, if you weren't here, that would have gotten really bad. Thank you for being here. So later
everyone would have died in the Avengers still when it showed up.
Yeah, there will be no Avengers in the city because they don't give a shit. But later, but this is where it really starts to get on my nerves. So this one I was like, okay, sure, whatever. And then I think at this part it's like on my nerves. Later in the game, Peter gets knocked out. Martin and Miles is about to get knocked out too, but like Mr. Negative, after having a heart-to-heart with Miles, they're dapping each other up. They're not bros, but they homies. And so Mr. Negative helps Miles, and then they go into Peter's soul to save him because Peter has a little bit of the symbiote left in him, and during the symbiote invasion, he's in danger of becoming a symbiote drone again, essentially.
Yeah, they did the Codex thing from Donny Cates, where like the symbiote gets in you, he leaves you. But at least just a little part in you, so it can like avoid your powers and all that stuff. That's why like Venom was immune to like the spider sense and stuff.
Right.
Yeah. So Mr. Negative goes on this whole spiritual journey with Miles, and then like Miles learns that Peter is still upset about Aunt May, which I'm glad the game told me because he only brings it up once in the game. I told me at this point, I was like, oh, I didn't realize this still bothering you.
That emotion and that failure and that insecurity, what the symbiote was holding on to.
Yeah.
And that's why all the little moments where it felt like these little lines that Peter didn't really care about, apparently he really did. And he was all connecting it to him failing Aunt May in his heart or some shit.
Yeah. And I'm glad they needed this whole scene to spell it. And to me, that's like way too late. We're like in the third act of the game, and Peter's already lost the symbiote. Only now we're figuring out what was really setting him off. I'm like, this should have been like hinted at more throughout the game, or let's at least hinted better. But
yeah, everybody has their secret griefs,
I get that, but this is also a story.
Yeah, but it's gonna be a secret when we're playing as you.
Yeah. See, why you keep
you're not reading his mind when you're playing him.
No, but it's like
Any other time you see a picture and say what he thinks.
Yeah, the thing is, here's my problem with it, right? Like, I get it. In real life, you wouldn't know something like that. The way Peter would brush that off would be very realistic. The problem is this is a story, and I need to be on board with Peter's character because he's the main character or one of them. So I need a little bit more than just like realism. I kind of need you to, spell that out for me a little bit more. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's good. If you miss that one piece of dialogue when MJ first comes to the house, you wouldn't know that Spider-Man's still holding on to it at all.
Yeah.
There's no setup for this being his trigger past that moment.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I will say, but anyway, so we go deep into Peter's soul, and Mr. Negative Mr. Negative can't cure Peter, but he can put his power inside of Peter, so it gives him a new symbiote. And this symbiote is the anti-venom suit. Yeah, so
I mean, you figured that would happen, like when you're talking about a Venom game, and of course when Mr. Negative comes in, it has to be anti-venom.
Yeah. I think that so. By the way, I should say this. By the way, this is like the best the Venom suits have felt in a game because oh my god, you feel the power in every punch with the symbiote. It's amazing. It was
Did you play Ultimate Spider-Man?
I played Ultimate Spider-Man. This feels better.
Did you play Web of Shadows?
Okay, no, I know you played with the Shadows.
Yeah, I played Ultimate Spider-Man. I got
I'll let it slide.
Yeah, this feels better. No, because you feel the power in the controller, and also when you get into rage mode, this if you're playing as Venom, like the black suit will talk to you through the controller. It's such a cool thing.
Oh, wow.
So, and also when you're in rage mode, if you're talking to a character, so like when I was in the open environment, I was hanging out with Miles. He was helping me out. I was in rage mode and I went to go talk to Miles. Miles sounds so far away in rage mode. It's such a cool detail. So I like that whole thing. Anyway, so now that Peter has anti-venom, now he has powers like Miles. So, they're somewhat equal.
Yeah.
The problem, but this is where we get the next line of dialogue, which was like, okay, now you're doing too much. Where Peter talks to Miles and he's like, wow, you really converted your arch nemesis to your best friend? Even I haven't done that, Maybe MJ was right. Maybe you are a better Spider-Man than me.
Oh.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, with this game, we found out that Peter technically has redeemed like three villains.
Yeah. If you're playing such as the side missions, Peter has redeemed Mysterio. He's redeemed Tombstone. What was the other one? He was redeemed. Who else? Well, technically, because of him, Martin Lee could be redeemed. So it's only because of Peter Martin Lee could have been redeemed to begin with. So
Yeah, but they give him the Supergirl Superman moment for the show where it's like, yeah, you actually maybe you are better than me. But unlike that show where Supergirl's like, yeah, I am. Miles like, no, I still need you.
Yeah, even though
anything that showed me I need you more.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. At least Miles salvaged that moment because I know a scene like that will be very triggering to a certain amount of fans out there. It seems like it was handled more appropriately.
Well, he says that, but the problem is I don't get any instance where Miles needs it. If you're playing the side missions like me, all the side missions, Miles handles everything kind of like really well. So I don't know.
Yeah, it would have been better if Peter. I thought it had something to do more with the isolation that Miles was feeling when he couldn't reach the Peter because Peter was going through all this other stuff. But the game doesn't really sell those.
Peter handles all the big level stuff, which gives Miles enough time.
I would say so. We get the Cryptid. You remember Yuri from the first game?
Yuri wants to not be the
detective, right?
Yeah, she comes back, and her side mission is actually really great. It's a 3-part side mission about the Flame, and it's like Spider-Man's Peter. It's only a Peter exclusive mission. He's hunting down this cult called the Flame, and Yuri winds up getting involved. And what I like about this actually is you really feel like Peter and Yuri are friends, but they just disagree about like killing, essentially. So like Yuri's like every time she goes on the case, she's like, "Hey, Spider-Man, you want to help me out with this? Because I know you're really good, and we might have our disagreements, but like we work good together." So I like, good.
Kurt, I want you to know, she looks younger than she did in the last game, and she has to have like some type of superpower. She's jumping off buildings and going to a tuck and roll over like 20 feet. What's happening?
In the second part of the side mission, she actually has a boss fight with Peter, and I laughed. I was like,
what?
I was like, no way. You think you can fight me?
Well, what did you have, a battle armor, or she just using regular handgun?
She wears a traditional superhero suit, like a purple suit.
Yeah, she's wearing a regular costume, bro. Yeah. With no enhancements based on the fight and what she says.
Yeah.
Well, I guess the studio is probably like thinking, well, we made Screwball a final boss, so we could try making Yuri the final boss too.
I mean, to be fair to her boss
fight. But to be fair, she's not the final boss of the storyline.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Her boss fight is actually pretty tough. I would argue Yuri's boss fight should have been in the main game because she actually challenges Peter's morality in a way that like would have tied into Symbiote. When you fight her, she's like, all you do is just like capture these villains and they get away and then they hurt people. All you're like it was
the Daredevil Punisher argument.
Yeah, it's like you want to be a hero, but you're so ineffective. Like, and then like having Peter hear that might have made him like more insecure later, and I think that would have, that should have been a main part of the story, not a side mission. I think.
Mhm.
It would have helped the Miles state,
Right.
where then Miles redeems Martin Lee. He's like, bro, when I do this, people just go to jail, get back out. You're actually like saving villains out here in a way.
Yeah.
Even though he didn't say Finn, but whatever. But
Hey, we'll talk about that old man and young girl's body.
yeah. So, I think, but like I said, I love the Yuri side quest. It also leads into a Carnage DLC. I think it's gonna be Carnage DLC. I think
Yeah.
it's DLC.
Cletus Cassidy leaves with a piece of the symbiote and Krypton. Like I said, the symbiote stuff here don't really make sense. The symbiote's in like in a box. It just turns red on its own.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's like, bro, what's happening?
I guess we have 10 minutes left, so I guess I'll get to the end of the story. Basically, after Peter realizes that Miles should be in the driver's seat of this adventure, because he says, "All right, well, Miles, you've all grown up." And after Miles puts on the worst costume in the entire game, Peter's like, "All right, Coach, you lead. You tell us what to do." So, okay. All right. But yeah, so like Miles comes up with a plan. Peter, MJ, and Miles team up to take on Venom, and they kill Harry. Harry's dead. So, no, they don't kill him. They have a boss fight with them. Peter's boss fight is just terrible. It's like really like ass for no reason. And then you have the Miles boss fight, which, oh, look at that. It's the fun boss fight.
Damn it.
So Miles has the better boss fight. What I like about this, there's a dialogue issue. I wish this came up more. Venom says, "You were just jealous of me and Peter being together." And it was really just Harry speaking through Venom. And Miles is like, "Yeah, you're kind of right. But man, the symbiote was really messing up." So, I kind of like that. Like I said, I like that. I like that Miles was actually jealous because he felt like he was losing his mind. Because throughout the game, Peter starts to leave Miles on red. Basically, there's like moments where Miles is like, "Hey, Peter, kind of need your advice," and then Peter just doesn't answer him anymore. So he's like, "Oh, hey, Miles, tell me what's wrong." And then Miles is like, "Well, you see what happened today." He's like, "Oh, sorry, I gotta go. Harry needs me." So there's just moments like that made Miles kind of feel left out. I wish that was explored more, but it wasn't. But yes, Harry does actually die, but it's okay because Miles brings him back to life
with a venom blast, right?
Venom CPR. But despite doing that, Norman Osborn hates the Spider-Man. I'm like, what? Because he told Peter to bring him back alive, and Peter did. But Norman's like, "Why would you do this? You ruined my son!" I was like, but I brought him back to life. Like, he's fine. Anyway, but he's not really fine. Harry's in a coma state he can't recover from.
Okay.
Essentially, well, he might be able to recover from, but it's very unlikely he will. So, as the game ends, we get a tease of the superior nature.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Norman comes into the prison. He talks. He's like, "I hear you know the Spider-Man's identities." And Osborn's like, and then Doc's like, "What do you want to know about him for?" He's like, "Well, the Spider-Man, they killed my son, or like they hurt my son." And then Oc's like, "Oh, good. I don't care."
You've been a dick to me my whole life, so I don't care about what happened to your kid. Like,
yeah, and then like Norman's like, "Okay, well, what you're writing over there?" And then he turns to Peter. He turns to Norman. He's like, "The final chapter." And then in our post credit scene, throughout the game, Miles' mom has been trying to get Miles to I know Harry's in a coma, but Norman acts like he's dead for some reason. That's my problem, Ted. Anyway, so Silk so Silk's in the game. Harry's been Miles' mom has been trying to get Miles to sit down and have dinner with her new boyfriend. By the way, it's only been like 6 months or 3 months since her husband died. Jesus, woman. Anyway, well, I want you to know when Mr. Negative gets free and is loose on the streets and Miles is freaking out, his mom's like, "Oh, don't worry about it, son. You you go find him, you bring him back, but don't worry about nothing.
Wow.
I'm like, he killed your husband, lady. Like he nearly killed Spider-Man. But whatever. Anyway, so finally Miles sits down and has dinner with his family, and his new stepfather comes in, and he brought his daughter, Cindy Moon.
Oh man, so you're gonna have to share a new game with 4 spider people. You realize that, right?
Mm-hmm. So
Okay.
we'll see.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was, I think that's Spider-Man 2. There's so much in this game, but we don't have that much time, so I
Yeah.
just want to get over it. Yeah, there was well, Tevye, there's a lot in this game, so I want to get like my final thoughts in, and then if we have time, we can go over some stuff. But oh, like I said, the story's good. It's just it could have been tighter. I think at the end of the day, the narrative is, like I said, it's not terrible, but it's as good as it's good enough. It's better than the Miles story. I'll tell you that much. Miles Morales Spider-Man is like a bad story, borderline.
Ooh.
But this game is a lot better. It actually does a lot more for Miles than the last game does.
That's saying a lot.
Yeah. So but yeah, do you have any questions or anything? So
No. I mean, I feel like I got enough out of this game to get an image as to how good this game is. It definitely has me looking forward to the future of what the next game has to offer for obvious reasons. So yeah.
yeah, I think Insomniac did a great job with this game. I have some critiques, but my critiques is like minor. It's like so in this game, your suit takes damage as you take damage. My problem with that mechanic is they got it from the Amazing Spider-Man, because in that game, the more you took damage, the more you like your suit looked like a damaged Peter suit for the movies, right? My problem with it is that it's health based. So let's say you're low on health, your suit will be torn nearly to shreds. But if you regenerate your health, your suit will be completely fine. And I'm like, I don't like that, because like I liked in the Amazing Spider-Man 1 how it originally worked, where no matter if you got damaged, your suit was just torn. It was just like it was torn a little bit, it was torn a medium amount, then it was just completely torn. And if you didn't go back to your closet and get a new suit, you were going to be stuck with a damaged suit until you did that. And I like that. That felt more like in line with like, because I don't like fighting, like, I don't like being in an intense Spider-Man fight and the suit's just like, okay, you know what I mean? Like it looks fine, you know what I mean? So
right.
I don't know. I wish that was fixed. More gadgets, please. I really wish Insomniac would get a costume designer, because some of these suits are just terrible. I'd say most of Miles' suits are just bad or not interesting to wear. So, they would just get like a comic book designer and just make them design some suits for Miles.
I just always found that odd that Miles already has his own line of variant skins, to have. Like,
well, you have some. Oh, by the way, you know what you do get in this game? The No Way Home Final Swing suit. You get that actually in this game, like the full like render, essentially. It looks great. It's a great render because like the blue is like brighter, so it actually like it looks reflective, and it's like a great suit to swing in, basically. In fact, I'd say this: all of the MCU Spider-Man suits look great on this model of Peter. So
is that because his face looks like Tom Holland as well?
That probably is. I wore the gold, red, and blue suit from No Way Home he wears.
Yeah.
There's like a scene where like Peter has his mask off, and I was wearing that suit, and it looks like, oh my god, it feels like he actually has that suit in the game. Like it feels like that's the story suit he's wearing, like the canon suit. That's how good it looks on him. But yeah, like I said, it's a great game. There's a lot of good side missions too. I won't have time to go into all of them, but all of them are like really cool. One had the chameleon in it, and we got revealed that in this universe as well in the comics, Chameleon is Kraven's half brother. Essentially, we got to know what happened to the Kraven clan, the Kraven family. They all killed themselves.
Oh, whoa.
They were all fighting to kill Spider-Man, and then they all killed each other doing it. So
Oh,
we got the Mysterio side mission. Turns out Mysterio is a reformed villain. That was cool.
okay.
He actually teaches Miles a thing or two about what it means to be kind of morally gray. We also have a Spider-Verse mission, which is fun.
Well,
It's really fun. I don't have time to go into it, but the ending is kind of funny. It has funny implications, and maybe Miguel
well,
O'Hara has a side mission in the DLC.
yeah, which is fits in line. I mean, since PS4 Spider-Man has already been involved with one Spider event in the comics and one Spider event in the
Well,
movies.
funny you say that because this game ruins that. Because if you end that mission with Peter, Peter's going to be like, "Who's Miguel?"
Oh, well,
So they did not care about the canon.
probably this. You can always say that this happened before his movie cameo. You know.
If you ask Austin, he says no. So uh, let's see. Anything else? Miles met Black Cat and actually had a conversation with her for the first time. So
Okay, that's cool.
yeah, and Black Cat seems to really like him. Not in that way, but like
Hmm.
likes him. And also we have Doctor Strange made a cameo. Well, not Doctor Strange, but the magic he has made a cameo in this. So
Okay, that's
we had a
cool.
scene where Black Cat stole the wand of Watum or something. I think that's what it's called, and she had to. And she was making portals to
they're
the city. So
they're going that deep into comic lore because like it wasn't too long ago when Black Cat had a comic series, right? And one of the things she did was steal from the Sanctum Sanctorum. So
yeah, and so
yeah.
at the end of it, Wong took the scepter back, and he was like, "Oh, thanks, just got back from vacation. Thanks, Spider-Man."
Hmm.
The Avengers ain't shit. They didn't show up to help the Spider-Man at all when the world was about to be destroyed, but whatever. Um, and and the game ends with Peter semi-retiring as Spider-Man. So
Yeah,
he's
we'll see about that.
yeah, he's gonna come back for the DLC because of how that DLC because of how the Carnage storyline ends. But he's semi-retired because he wants to take a step back and work on the Emily May Foundation, started by Harry. It's their dream to help save the world, so he wants to do more to use science to save the world. Since Miles can take his place, unless he really needs him. So there's that.
Hmm.
So that's where Peter is at the end of the game, and Miles is the official Spider-Man of New York. Until Peter, wants to get out and help out. So
Hmm.
so there you go. So yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So yeah, audience, that was our review discussion of Spider-Man PS5.
Yeah,
Yay!
we did
Yeah,
it.
it went on a lot longer than I thought it was going to be, but yeah, that just shows all the good content this series had,
Yeah, and
and also some of the bad. Like,
and there's a lot I didn't talk about too. So even with this review, there's a lot more in the game. So go play it.
hmm
But yeah,
yeah,
all
I want to take the time to also thank Comic Con and Tevia for joining us in the chat. So yeah, much appreciated. Audience, also leave your thoughts in the comments. We love to hear what you thought tonight and the game.
Yeah.
Oh, we also have to plug in our socials.
we gotta do that.
Yeah, okay. Follow us on Instagram at Comic Fanatic 2.0. Also, follow us on Twitter or X at Comic Fanatic 69.
It's Twitter.
Yeah, okay, Twitter. Well, when I open that Twitter, I get an X. I don't know what that's about. So, okay. All right, then. Yeah. Anything you guys want to say before we close the night?
Austin is in the Spider-Verse right now, so
Yay! Also like to thank Austin for joining us last minute, but it was much appreciated, man.
yeah. Go get Spider-Man 2. Whip.
Yay! And start dreaming about a superior future. All right, audience. That's it for tonight. Bye, all.
Bye.